Just when things seemed to be at their worst, an unexpected hero appeared on the scene. This brave and caring bear saw the child in distress and knew it had to act fast. With its instinctive strength and protective instincts, the bear courageously intervened and saved the child's life. Are you curious to learn more about this incredible story of bravery and compassion? Keep watching to discover how the heroic bear went above and beyond to save a child's life. So, let's dive into this heartwarming story together. At the age of 17, Alexei and Nastya got married, captivating the entire village and town. The couple was overjoyed to learn that Nastya was pregnant months later, as they excitedly awaited the birth of their first child. When it was time for Nastya to give birth, Alexei reached out to his friend, who owned a car, to take his wife to the hospital. However, his friend informed him that his car had broken down, making the young couple panic. Alexei quickly called for an ambulance, but unfortunately, it arrived late, causing Nastya to collapse in pain. Despite her distress, Alexei remained by her side, doing his best to comfort her. Eventually, the ambulance arrived and rushed Nastya to the hospital, where she was immediately taken to the maternity ward. Alexei anxiously awaited news, and after a few moments, a nurse emerged with an update. She informed him that Nastya would require surgery, as she could not give birth naturally, leaving Alexei even more concerned. After undergoing a 5-hour operation, the doctor emerged from the operation room with a grim expression. He delivered the devastating news to Alexei that his beloved wife had passed away during the procedure, leaving him in shock and despair. The only silver lining was that their newborn son had survived against all odds, bringing a glimmer of hope to an otherwise tragic situation. Alexei's sense of loss and grief was so great that it overtook him as he tried to process the news of Nastya's death. Initially, the young man was hesitant to see his newborn son, who was in good health. He saw the child as a painful reminder of the loss of his beloved wife and refused to hold him at first. The doctors ordered the nurses to wait before giving Alexei his son, out of concern for his mental state and respect for the baby's well-being. When the hospital eventually called him to pick up the baby, he refused to see him and even said they should throw him out. However, Natasha, the maternal grandmother of the newborn, was heartbroken by the tragic events that has unfolded and stepped in to take care of her grandson. She visited the hospital and took the baby to live in her home. There, she provided him with all the love and care he needed, ensuring that he lacked for nothing. 6 months had passed since the little boy's birth, and his father still has not shown up. The grandmother tried to reach out to him and begged him to see his son, but he refused to talk to her and ignored her every time. She took her grandson in her arms and searched for Alexei in his house, but he wasn't there. The grandmother searched for her daughter's husband along the railway road. When the grandmother arrived at the railway, she found Alexei sitting on the tracks with a bottle of wine. He was completely intoxicated and unresponsive to her attempts to communicate with him. The grandmother decided to leave. However, just as she was about to go, she noticed a small bear stuck on the tracks with a train quickly approaching. She promptly put her grandson on the ground and ran towards the bear, with only seconds to spare. She managed to save the bear and avoid getting hit by the train. As she was leaving the area, a giant bear, most likely the little bear's mother, approached her. The grandmother left the little bear and quickly picked up her grandson, then hurried away from the scene, fearing the ferocious bear might attack her. The old lady was walking and checking if the bear and her baby were coming after her. She was confused because they weren't trying to hurt her. She thought they maybe wanted to thank her for saving the baby bear, but they didn't know how. After the incident with the little bear on the railway, the grandmother, Natasha Ivanovna, was followed by the mother bear and her cub. At first, she was afraid they would attack her, but she soon realized they meant no harm. Instead, the bears would come every day and sit across from her house for some time before leaving. Over time, Natasha began to understand that the bears were peaceful creatures and that they might want to be friends with her. So she offered them food and water, approached them, and touched them kindly. One day, Alexei, the little boy's father, visited the grandmother and said he wanted to take his son back. He said he had decided to start a new life with a new wife and wanted to take care of his son. The grandmother was happy to hear this news and gave the baby boy to his father along with clothes and necessary things. She felt emotional and said goodbye to him with tears in her eyes. She missed him terribly. She visited him daily and was pleased to see Alexei was taking good care of him. Alexei was planning to marry a young woman named Olga, whom he had recently met. The grandmother was glad her grandson would have a new mother and wished them all the best in their future. The bear and the cub only visited Natasha Ivanov's house for a few days, so she assumed they had left. But one day, they came back with something in the mother's bare mouth. It was her beloved grandson. He was exhausted but unharmed. Natasha immediately took him to the police to report what had happened. They found out that the father, Alexei, had suddenly remembered his ex-wife. He drank until he got drunk, took his son to the railroad tracks and left him on the iron bars. Alexei continued to drink alcohol and eventually lost consciousness. Meanwhile, his son remained sitting on the tracks. And when the express train approached him, the bear came in to rescue and pulled the child to safety at the last moment. The grandmother's act of kindness towards the bear and her cub was returned when the bear saved her grandson from a potentially fatal situation. The police warned the boy's father, Alexei, that they would remove his custody if he neglected his son again. As a result, Alexei decided to quit drinking alcohol entirely and started to dedicate all of his time to his son, whom he grew very fond of and attached to. In addition, the bear and her cub resumed visiting Natasha Ivanov's in her house, and the grandmother started spending more time at home with them. She also invited her grandson to play with his wonderful friends at her place. Thanks for watching our video. We hope you enjoyed the story and found it inspiring. Remember to like and subscribe to our channel for more content like this, and we'll see you in the next video.